I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, what connects better with kids than the creatures around us, from honeybees to the family pet? Dr. Nina Kelly has crafted two children's storybooks that help youngsters learn important lessons. The books are called Athena the Brave and Honeybee Treehouse. We're delighted to have Nina in the spotlight with us here today, and we ask those watching to please like, comment, and subscribe for more exclusive content. Nina, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really impressed by your background before we get into the books. You're a mythologist and a depth psychologist.
Yeah.
I kind of know what a mythologist is. I guess you study myths and
Yes.
cultures that go with them. So tell us a little bit about your work as a mythologist and a depth psychologist.
Well, a mythologist is someone who not only studies myths, but they've studied the major cultures, their religions, their philosophy, their psychology, obviously their literature. And a depth psychologist is someone who has studied Jungian psychology, although I've studied all fields, but it's symbols, dreams, archetypes, different. It just helps you to understand the human behavior better.
Yeah. And I can imagine that informs your work as well as a writer.
Yes, it did. And it has, and it also informs, actually it has, once I've finished mythology or studying, and I'll probably study to it forever, but I don't see life with the same lens. I just see things so differently. And I think the more you learn about people, the less you try to change them, the more you appreciate them. And that's really been the best gift for me, is to help me to understand humanity better.
Which is the greatest puzzle of all. If you can understand people, I think you understand a lot of what this world around us is all about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Do you
agree.
actually see patients or clients, or is it mostly scholarly?
I don't
work?
now. I didn't. My previous work, I was involved. I was working for the medical school, and I worked with organ donation, transplantation, death, and dying. So I had a pretty heavy background in that. But I balanced that with the arts. So I always thought, life and death is on this side of the track, and the arts and are on this side. And that's pretty much how I balanced my life. Because I think you need both. You need to see the perspective from both. So I did research actually as a mythologist with transplant patients on helping them to heal and everything.
Very interesting.
But
Well, you're a
now
person
I'm a
with
writer.
great energy. So those folks who are going through these life-changing procedures, I'm sure they were blessed to have you as their
Thank you.
counselor.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Athena the Brave. Love the story. Tell the folks at home what it's about.
Well, first and foremost, Athena is my grand dog, so that's why I used her as a subject. And but and animals are, or dogs especially, they love you unconditionally. And then this whole story is about kindness. And Athena it's a story with animals, but it's certainly a story teaching the importance of kindness and how our words matter. And so that's pretty much the essence of the story. But I also put Athena in the book too, because she herself has done other things. She has been an emotional support dog. She has been the queen of a crew of Barkus, which is a dog parade in New Orleans, one and only dog parade. But they raise money for sheltered dogs and help to adopt dogs. So it kind of, in the book, I wanted to show, look, she's doing her part to help, but also she's also teaching or helping to inform, how important words are, how important kindness is, and to forgive people, or forgive, in this case it's dogs, forgive each other.
Absolutely. And Athena is a Pomeranian,
She's
which
a
I'm
white
familiar
Pomer.
with the breed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
it's a
yeah, she's a
sweet,
little
sweet
character.
dog. I mean, I think a Pomeranian's pure sweetness.
They are, and they're so sweet, and they're so loving and dedicated. I mean, they're just adorable, really, really adorable,
Yeah. My mom had one, and it was her constant lap companion for the
Yeah.
last years of her life. So love
Yeah.
Pomeranians. And I think the lessons of the book are so important for children to learn, because words do have so much power. They can be empowering or they can be disempowering. And kids need to
Exactly.
realize that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, little young minds, I guess the older I get, now, you know, the older I get, the more I realize you see the energy in these children's eyes and they're so receptive. And this is the time to give them great messages. And
Mhm.
that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Thank you.
there's a lesson about forgiveness in Athena as well.
Yes, yes. Because just because someone hurts you, you know, you have to rise above. Well, have to be careful. I'm an old Southern, you know, you know, it's I'm trying to reflect that, rise above that, you know, just try to see that there's another option. You know, don't hold on to anger or meanness. Just look past that and go, but I'm going to be kind.
Mhm.
I'm going to receive a better message. And then by you doing that, that helps others. Yeah.
Absolutely. And your other book is Honeybee Treehouse. Tell us
Yes.
about that a little bit.
Well, Honeybee Treehouse, I'm a nature person, and the
Mhm.
more I walked, the more bees saw, and then I kept thinking, wow. So I started reading about bees, and then I realized, oh my goodness, they're endangered.
Yeah.
And so I created this story once again for children to inform them how important bees are for our food, for fruits, vegetables, everything they eat pretty much is because of the bees. And so in this story, it's where the children learn about saving the bees, they learn about bees, and they take an active role. Little children become activists very early.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm coming with that story. Yeah.
Are these your first two children's books?
I wrote a chapter book. It's called Leo Learns a Lesson, with several authors. When Jack Canfield was one of them, Nick Nathan, and several other people. So my first one was called Leo Learns a Lesson, and that story is about words and why words matter. So I'm still on that trajectory of why
Right.
words are important. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, writing a children's book has its own set of challenges in that
Yes.
you're trying to convey concepts to children
Yes.
using words and
Yes.
phrases that children can comprehend, right?
Yes, you know, I've written nonfiction before, and you know, you just write, so to say. You try writing a children's book, that was a whole nother animal for me. You
Yeah.
know, it was just a whole different learning. So I did study with Miriam Laundrie on how to write children's books, because it's not as easy. Well, it wasn't for me. It wasn't as
Right.
easy for me to write, but I'm very excited because now I'm in that track, you know. I'm
Yeah.
very, I'm happy about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you been able to do any readings with children
I
at
have.
all? Tell me about
Yeah.
that experience.
Okay. Well, this was the best. You know, you sit down, I've gone to some museums and I've read to some children, and they sit on the floor, and they had me up in this chair, and I went, no, I want to sit on the floor. So I sat down. It's amazing. I even have two of the little children came and sat next to me, and then I was talking to them, you know. So that encouraged me, and it sounds selfish, I don't mean it to be that way, but it encourages me about how the children, they're looking for good stories, they're
Yeah.
looking for good models, and they were so engaged.
That's
Really.
great. I mean, that's the joy of being a creator is to create
Yes.
something, put it out there, and then
Yes.
have it well received. I
Yes.
don't think
Yeah.
it's egotistical at all. I think it's
Yeah.
just part of the process. We don't create to keep it under a lampshade or something, right? Isn't that? I think that's
No,
even a sin
but it
considered.
is. I
If you
mean,
got
we're
some, if you got a
supposed to
candle,
share,
let it
right?
shine, right?
That's part of the book. Share. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
you know. So
Exactly.
anyway, yeah.
The book cover of Honeybee Treehouse is wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Both illustrations are amazing. But let's talk about Honeybee Treehouse and how you came about with the title and how you came about with the book cover as well.
Well, I'm from South Louisiana. I'm originally from New Orleans, and we have big old oak trees. So that is my thing. And I have hugged many oak trees, and I have climbed many oak trees. And so that was the vision. That was the vision for me. I wanted a tree. And but then I thought, well, it has to be something special. So it's a city girl going to visit her grandmother, and they have tree houses in this on the because oak trees can live to 300 plus years.
Yeah.
Oh, so and so that was that. And then my illustrator, Herma Edwards, I've known her for 20 something years. And so, when I went to her and I was telling her about the story, and that's how we just started creating it, the visuals, the illustrations and everything. So
Right.
that's where the tree comes from. And
Right. Well, that's
yeah,
wonderful. It's also nice that you collaborate with someone that you have a great relationship with as well.
22 years, I think,
That's
it's a long time,
that that's amazing. Now, do you think Honeybee Treehouse will help inspire young children to get active in good environmental causes like saving the bees?
I do. I really do. Because in it, as fate would have it, as fate would have it, I've had so many different follow-ups saying, can you tell us more about bees? So there's going to be a series, so I have to continue on with the bees. But the interest has been more than I expected, and so I'm excited about that. And that just goes to show you, once children kind of understand bees, and the next thing you know, I saw a bee here and we have bees there, and what about wasps? So the curiosity is there and the interest is there. And I also have found, and this was wonderful, that it's amazing how the children want to participate. That's just remarkable. And they feel like, well, what can I do? Or who can I tell? And then they all have their own little story,
Yeah,
which is fun. It's really
absolutely.
fun. Yeah.
We've seen so many changes in our society over the last decade or two or more. I mean, a lot of it has to do with this.
Yes.
A lot of it has to do with this, our computer.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think children have been impacted by that?
Well,
I mean, talking to you as a author, I
yes.
feel that, children's storybooks are kind of more important than ever because all of this is so fleeting, all of this is so
Yes.
temporary, but to actually have a physical book in your hand
Yes.
with beautiful illustrations, I think
Yes.
is a real joy for a child that should be a timeless experience.
I've come to appreciate that because I know I have two children and I read to my children and I have grandchildren. But when you, what this, I just feel compelled. What's the best gift is when you see a child going, they're buying books or they're sitting on the floor and they're reading. No, I believe that children like books.
Yeah.
And they like to touch books. They like to flip the pages. And in the back of these books are activities too. So they participate more. I think that's I'm a firm believer, just from witnessing, but not, I'm a book person, but I've just seen how receptive they are and how they carry their little book and then they go, then they're telling their own story. So there's a real connection there between the product, so to say, the book, you're holding it, and their imagination.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's something real, something tangible, and then they're out imagining their own story or whatever experiences they've had.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think eventually there's going to be a little bit of a digital rebellion. And I think it'll actually be a good thing because our technology is getting so advanced. It's
Yes.
ridiculous. I don't know if you've ever worked on Chat GPT yet.
I
But
don't I don't know.
Chat GPT is a new program that is
Uh-huh.
artificial intelligence
Oh
that
yeah.
you could write into it. Please compose a children's book for children ages 3 to 7 about the importance of using proper words and make the central character a dog. And it'll write it for you.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Here's the
Yeah,
issue that I see with that. Okay, you've just given your whole imagination and your whole creativity to another entity to create it for you.
exactly.
So what have you done here? You've taken a holiday. you
Exactly.
know? So
And the more holidays you take up here, the less strong this will be.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the research that you did for Athena the Brave. Was there any research you needed to do?
Well, because this is my grand dog. I
Which is
mean,
your grandchildren's dog? Is that how that
no,
works?
it's my son's dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I've spent a lot of time from when she was a little puppy. And so what happened, I think just spending time with her and watching the sensitivity, dogs pick up emotions, and I've
Mm.
seen that. And of course, when my children were little, we had every kind of animal you can think of. I mean,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
but so yeah, but with in particular with Athena, I saw how sensitive she was. How if somebody was in a bad mood, she picked that up. If someone was sad or someone was happy, so they pick up that, and they're very, or she, and I'm all dogs. Anybody has a pet, they pick up emotions, and they're there to comfort you, you
Mm.
know, and so I think that's why one reason I wanted to use her was because I knew her, and I knew her very well. And then also, it's funny because the children have asked me, can Athena come to book signings? Can she do, it's so funny. So
Exactly.
I think we're gonna have to get a paw stamp or something,
That's a good one. You should
I
do
know,
that.
I
I
know.
think the kids would
So,
love that.
I
Stamp every
know,
book
like,
with a
"Bing.
paw.
Okay, this is Athena." Yeah,
That's wonderful.
yeah. So
Now,
that's why I think they relate. They really, but hey, look, here's the bottom line. People
mhm,
want to love. And dogs want to love,
mhm.
you know, and that, just kind of gets us back to the basics. So if dogs can love and teach us lessons and kind of put together a story that everyone can understand or relate to, it's a winner, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. And children love dogs. It's amazing. I love dogs. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
just
me too.
my whole
And
Facebook feed is filled with dog groups that I'm in, you know.
oh,
I'm a
really?
Jack Russell Terrier fan, so that's what all I look
Oh,
at.
well, it's funny because ever since Athena came out, now when I go walking, I I'm always making eye contact with all these strange dogs.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking and go, hi, how are you? I mean, I look at them before the people almost.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, they're much more interesting than people.
Well, they look at you like, okay, she's noticed me,
Exactly,
And
exactly. I
it's
mean, in the
true.
pecking order, it's babies, dogs,
Yes.
people, for sure.
Yes.
Now, I understand you worked as an executive producer on an Emmy Award-winning documentary. Tell me a little bit about that. That's a pretty fascinating aspect of your life that also deals with dogs.
Thank you. Yes, this was this one, this it was called A New Leash on Life, Canine for Warriors, and it had to do with post-traumatic syndrome soldiers who have
Hmm.
served our country. And there is an organization that came that Canine for Warriors, and what they did, they took sheltered dogs, trained them. This filming was remarkable. When you heard the stories, as a matter of fact, Nick Naton was the producer, and we won 4 Emmys on that.
Hmm.
So it's a great story because putting the dogs together with the soldiers, I mean, I learned so much about the relationship of the animals with the soldiers, and it just transformed their lives. I mean,
Hmm.
really transformed their lives. So that was great.
Yeah.
And
And it was a completely different endeavor for you as well. I mean, that's not your background working in
no,
TV
I did. I
production.
did 3 documentaries, not my background, and the other one was Larry King, and meeting him because he was, that was fascinating because
Yeah.
he was so honest about his whole life, his whole story, and how he dreamed of becoming a radio person as he did, as everybody knows,
Oh, sure.
and that was fascinating.
Tell me the circumstances about how you met Larry King.
It was through Nick. It was through
Okay.
Nick. Yeah. And because I had written some chapter books with Jack Canfield and also with Larry King. And then Larry King was writing, it's called The Big Question. And so he gave us an opportunity to write whatever we wanted. And everybody wrote about business. So I said, may I write whatever I want? He goes, sure, what the heck? And it depends, but anyway, I wrote why music matters, because
Mm.
I think it's all entwined in our world. We need music as much, or we need music as much as we need analytical data, so to say.
Sure. In fact, in many ways, it's much more pleasing and enriches your life more to have music than to have analytical data, right?
Yeah, and it's a universal language.
Yeah.
I mean, it connects us all. Whatever your culture is, you could have, but it's still rhythm, it's still music. So it still connects us. The unspoken word, so to say. And then I was very fortunate to work with another documentary called Foes of Honor. And this is where these soldiers that had lost their lives serving our country, there is a foundation called Foes of Honor, where it allows the family members to become educated, so that their family members can, that they can go to school, which is great. And it won a humanitarian award. So you're right. It was so it was just great though. It was wonderful. So filming, seeing it, being there, I learned a lot.
Have you thought about either Honeybee Treehouse or Athena the Brave becoming an animated series or a film?
Okay,
yes, that means yes.
yes.
That'd be great, right?
Yes. Yeah. From your mouth to the heavens.
Exactly.
Yes, because it would make a great story.
Oh,
I mean, those are great stories,
They are.
And yeah, so thank you for saying that. Yes.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I guess it would be animated. I mean, although some of the live action today is amazing too, right?
Sure. But it would be great because what they're doing with animation now, part of it's real character, part of it's animation. So I think this would be great.
Yeah.
That's my.
Especially with the voice acting today, you get people like, Jerry Seinfeld as a voice actor or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
It's really wonderful stuff. I mean, that's one area I think in many ways that the kids today are light years ahead of us with the TV and film production. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I grew up, I'm a movie buff, so I grew up watching movies. And so my mind automatically goes there thinking, this could be, you can tell I have a lot of energy.
Yes, just a tiny bit.
A little bit, huh?
I think what's important though, as a writer, and I have a very visual brain as well. If you're going to write a compelling story, if you write it visually as if it were a film or a TV show or a movie, I think it's more entertaining to viewers, to readers.
That's a great thought. And I'm really glad I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, that's really a profound thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope I do get to see these made into, like I said, a series, and hopefully somebody out there is listening will pick up on that.
Yes.
Tell me about your advice to other people who are thinking about writing children's books like you have.
Because like I said, this is a new genre for me, children. And but I believe that you have to, now I don't believe, I mean, I know it's imperative to follow a passion. And if something comes, talking about creative, if something comes to you and it doesn't leave you, then it's the words of wisdom is to follow that dream. And I think, life is ever changing. So sometimes we become very comfortable in one lane, but there's so many lanes. We have a saying in New Orleans: it takes many ingredients to make a great gumbo. And I think about life like that. It just takes so many different ingredients. It takes so many facets to make a great life. So I encourage writers, go where your passion is, go where your dreams are. Yeah,
absolutely. I always say I'm most comfortable outside of my comfort zone. So, and it sounds like you are too, that you enjoy a new challenge, that you embrace new challenges, and that's what keeps you an engaged, active person, right?
Yes. Well, I love life.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're only given so many heartbeats and we don't know what those are.
I know. Yeah. Exactly. So you don't want to take any of it for granted. When you're writing your books, do you keep the parents in mind as well when you're writing for children?
Wow. To be honest with you, I have to tell you, I keep the children in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I never, and so I guess I
It's
haven't
probably a
thus.
little bit of both, I guess, in a
Well,
way. I
because
mean, if
remember, I'm an
you're
elder.
interested in the story, someone else like would be interested in the story also who's an adult, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm an elder, so that kind of goes without saying.
Yeah.
That you know what I mean. It just kind of goes without saying. I guess I think about that part of it
Mm-hmm.
very respectfully, you know. But I also, so far, it's. I think about the joy of the child
Mm.
because you know children really want to be heard. They want to be seen and they want some role to take. That's
Yeah,
been my experience.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
Now,
I think I keep that vision in mind.
oh, sure. Now, you
Yeah.
mentioned grandchildren before.
Mhm.
Have you, I'm presuming you read these books to your grandchildren. How old are your grandchildren? Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, yes, absolutely. They're my best critics. You know, when I
Absolutely.
did when I did Honeybee Treehouse, me and they call me Mimi, Mimi, blah 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 blah. You know, I go, oh, okay, that's a great idea. You know, and so
Right.
it's wonderful. So we have this interaction, and then with and so now let's see, the little ones, I call them my little ducklings,
Mhm.
but they've just turned ages and now they're 10, 12, 13. So they're getting up there now.
Wow.
And then I have a 27. She'll be 27 this coming month. I'm only 10.
Yeah, I was going to say you are, I can't believe it. I have a 33-year-old son and I think that shocks people, but you have a
Yeah.
27-year-old grandchild?
Yes. Yeah, I
That's
know.
really shocking. You must
Well,
have
now you
gotten
know why I
married
have a
when you
lot
were
of
about
energy.
10
Yeah.
years old, like
And
you
then I have
said.
a new grandson who's 10. So I mean, you know, so I have this I have a really great family, but they keep me on my toes, you
Yeah.
know. So yes, and truthfully, before I even began editing the book, what I did was I wrote it, and it takes many edits, obviously, but then I had my grandchildren look at it and give me their feedback, and and so that was really really good because you're seeing it from and you're hearing it from a child's perspective because I may
Absolutely.
be, but actually, you look very, very young to have a 30-year-old.
Thank
Wow.
you. We're the Mutual Admiration Society here today. That's very good. No, you
Yeah.
look younger. No, you look younger. No, you
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What the heck?
exactly, exactly.
Well, it's all just called time on Earth, right?
Exactly, exactly. You've got a good spirit. I like to think I have a good spirit, and that
Yeah, you
reflects in
do.
one's face as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about when you get the story idea. Does the idea come and then you write it down, or as you're writing, does the idea develop? Tell me a little bit about that writing process.
Well, for me, for children's books now, for
Mhm.
me, the idea comes. And then I walk around and think about, I mean, it's stirring. So I'm
Yeah.
putting the concept together and writing it. You know, I write it and go, yeah, I don't like this one. Or and I change it up. And but the original thought is it just comes and I
Mm.
know what I want to do. And I'm just not sure how I want to have it to play out, you see.
Yeah.
Um, and I
You know,
have fun with that because
it's
it
like
lives.
asking you to choose amongst children, but which book do you like better?
Well, that's an unfair question. You know, that's
Let's say
like,
I have money for only one book. Which one do I buy?
oh no, you buy both
Of
because they're
course.
wonderful. No,
Yeah,
see, but that's like asking, do you like the sun better than the moon?
exactly. No, it is a tough question. Like I said, it's like choosing between your kids, you know. You
Yeah,
love
no,
them for
I think
different reasons. That's why I always told my kids, I love you for different reasons.
absolutely because they're all different.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
exactly.
yeah,
Tell me about incorporating the illustrations into your storytelling. You worked with a dear friend of many
yes,
years. That must have
yes.
been helpful. And tell me how that worked out.
Well, here goes. I went to, we'll talk about Honeybee Treehouse. So
Okay.
first came Honeybee Treehouse, and then went over, visited, we brainstormed. I knew what my story was. I verbally told her, this is what I want the story to be. This is what I'm thinking about. And then we start brainstorming about how are these illustrations going to work because of because of the words. And
Mhm.
so that's a whole process.
Right.
So there's a lot of processes in this. you know.
Yeah.
And so that's how that. And then Athena, because she is also a dog lover, so she just loved that,
Mhm.
you know. And so that was easier because she goes, oh no, Athena, you know, because she has her own character about how she feels about dogs.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different dynamic. But I think every story is going to be like that.
Yeah.
You see, you know, because every story has its life of its own.
Right. And
Yeah.
takes on a life of its own. And Athena looks like it is taking on a life of its own because you're planning a sequel or turning it
Yeah.
into a series, correct?
Right. I'm going to do a series with Honeybee Treehouse, and I'm going to do a series with Athena because they're, you know, yes. So Athena's already, I'm looking at her on the floor. Athena, Athena goes, I'm first. I mean,
Right.
I tell you, they all have their personality. You know,
Exactly.
I joke a lot. I'm sure you can see that.
No, that's good. Like I said,
Yeah.
that's part of a good spirit for sure. And all that resonates into your writing, that if you have a good sense of humor, if you're lighthearted, if you enjoy life, I mean, I think that makes it, I
Mhm.
think that's what informs your writing as much as anything, as much as your education or even more, right?
Oh, even more, because I believe life, you know, I think the two greatest teachers, and I certainly believe in education, but I believe travel and
Mm.
experience. I mean, that's the grassroots of education as far as I'm concerned too. Wisdom is profound. I love it.
Right.
But people, exchanges, experiences, and you know, what do people remember? They remember their experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there children's books that have inspired you?
Well, yeah, I love the classics, obviously, that those
Mhm.
are these are picture books that I've done here, but I love the classics. But I also, The Little Prince, which is probably the most profound, well-sold book ever.
Right.
That always had an impression upon me. And then, I fast forward today and I think about some of the people who have written nonfiction or fiction or whatever, but they've all gone back and they've at one point in time they wrote a children's book.
Mm.
And so I've been fascinated by that. And Ishi Lee, who does a lot of work with brain and energy, he wrote a children's book about a little bird. I love that. It's
Mm.
called The Songbird. And then, Jack Canfield and Miriam Laundrie wrote some children's books in collaboration together. Landry and um, and then even this minister Max Locardo, he's written a so I think all of these have caught my eye because
Mhm.
I read many different genres, and and they have caught my eye, and I'm thinking there must have been something speaking to them too, that they felt that they needed to speak to the children as well. And I think
Absolutely.
that those things. Andrew Lang, who is noted for fairy tales, I've read his books as well. So, and
Yeah. What do you
I'm
think of the
answering this a
classics
little bit.
like Grimm's fairy tales and
Oh
so forth?
yeah, see all of those
Yeah.
Grimm's and Charles Dix. I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
You grow up with that.
Exactly. And they
Yeah.
were they were a little frightening. I mean,
Yes.
storybooks when I was a kid and when you were a kid were about,
Right.
Hansel and Gretel maybe never coming home or.
No. Yeah, I don't. I know. And but yet you read them over and over and over again. I mean, I have a wooden marionette of Pinocchio here.
Which is the cartoon itself by Disney is kind of frightening. It's so
It,
dark,
I
The kid
know.
had the audacity to want to be an actor. And
Right.
and you saw how his
It's
life turned out because of that, right?
right. But
Yeah.
see, there's a moral in that story too. Yeah, and it's interesting. You talk about children. Different children have different perspectives about things too.
Yeah.
Some little boys are very, very curious about certain things, and little girls are go one way or whatever. There's different time frames. There's different levels of where their eyes will roam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Are you thinking about writing any adult literature?
Well, I have. I wrote a book called Grace Has a Silent Voice.
Okay. Tell me
Yeah,
about
now
that.
this was a nonfiction, and I will, to answer your question,
Sure.
yes. But Grace Has a Silent Voice was written in 2015, actually. And it's stories of the resilience of the human spirit in times of tragedy. And I felt very compelled to honor those people who had come into my life and made such a difference witnessing what they went through. And they're different stories, but so I really have respect for those individuals. And then I probably will go back and write more, you know. That's a different, those are more sobering stories, but they touch the heart for sure.
Well, I love the title. Grace Has a Silent Voice. Is that what it is?
Grace Has a Silent Voice, in which, by the way, yeah, it's kind of it's having a life of its own again.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, you never know when you put things out into the universe, whether it's a video or whether it's a book or whatever it is, you never know when it's going to take on a life of its own.
You never know. And that's why it's surprising me. It's like, oh my goodness, Grace is still around. I mean, you know.
Exactly.
And
when I started acting, a casting director years ago said to me, Logan, it's like a message in a bottle. You put your resume out there and your headshot out there, and when you least expect it, somebody calls. And till this day, I never know when this thing's going to ring, and somebody who's seen my work or has come across my resume gives you a call. So, and that's part of the joy, you know, that you never know what tomorrow brings. That one phone call on here can change your life for the better, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I hope after this interview, your phone starts ringing and your email starts pinging, because you've written two wonderful books. One is called Athena the Brave. Now you have Athena next to you, don't you?
Well, no, I was the book.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you I had.
I'm like, the people at home want to see this dog.
Oh no, and I should have thought about that, because let me tell you, here's what she looks like really in real life.
Well, that's a beautiful cover.
Well, that's what she looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this is Honeybee.
And that's a beautiful cover as well.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
But I didn't think about that, but I was afraid if I had her tonight, she might want all the attention.
That's true. That's true. What they say, never perform with kids and children.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a solid showbiz advice. Let me tell the folks at home once again, the name of the books are Athena the Brave and Honeybee Treehouse. They are both written by Dr. Nina M. Kelly, excuse me, Dr. Nina M. Kelly. And they are wonderful. They teach important life lessons for your children. They're beautifully illustrated. They're beautifully written. And get the books before they become a TV series, so the kids can read the book first and then they can watch it on TV. How does that sound?
Thank you so much. Yeah,
oh, my pleasure. Great speaking with you today.
You too. It's great to meet you.
And we appreciate all of your insight, your energy, and your enthusiasm. It is contagious and it's wonderful. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.